December 25, 1948. Frank Costello, the Prime Minister of the underworld, was hosting the most exclusive Christmas dinner in New York. The five families were there: Genovese, Luciano's representatives, Bonanno, Profati, Mangano. Every major Italian power broker in the city, sitting at one table. Security was airtight. 30 armed men outside. No one gets in without an invitation. No one would dare try, except one man. At exactly 8:47 p.m., Bumpy Johnson walked through the front door of Costello's Long Island mansion, uninvited, unarmed, alone. What he placed on that dinner table made Frank Costello, the man who controlled politicians and judges, go completely silent. And within 2 hours, the five families, who had been planning a war that would have drowned Harlem in blood, declared an immediate truce. This is the story of the Christmas dinner that changed the underworld forever. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand the pressure cooker that was New York in 1948. World War II was over, soldiers were home, money was flowing, and the mob was expanding like never before. But there was a problem: territory. Every family wanted more. The Italians controlled the docks, the unions, the construction. They had Manhattan locked down. But Harlem was different. Harlem was black, and Harlem was rich. The numbers racket alone was pulling in $2 million a year. Clubs, after-hours joints, heroin starting to flood in from Europe. It was a gold mine, and the five families wanted it. They'd been patient. They'd let the black operators run things, take their cut as middlemen. But patience was wearing thin. Vito Genovese, freshly back from Italy, was the loudest voice. He sat in meetings and said what they were all thinking. Why are we letting them keep Harlem? We could take it in a week. Frank Costello, more diplomatic, more strategic, tried to pump the brakes. Harlem's different. It's organized. They have loyalty we don't have there. Genovese laughed. They have Bumpy Johnson, one man. We have five families. Costello knew better. He'd dealt with Bumpy before. Small things, boundary disputes, mutual respect maintained. Bumpy wasn't just muscle. He was smart, connected, and more importantly, he had something the Italians didn't have in Harlem. He had love. The people protected him. That made him dangerous. But Genovese was pushing. The other families were listening. Mangano wanted the docks expanded. Bonanno wanted the heroin distribution. Profati just wanted money. And Luciano, still pulling strings from exile, sent word: take Harlem. By November 1948, the decision was made. After Christmas, they'd move in. Quietly at first, buy out some operators, pressure others, and if Bumpy Johnson resisted, they'd remove him. Permanently. The plan was set. The war was coming. Bumpy knew it. He had informants everywhere. Cops on payroll, waiters in Italian restaurants, numbers runners who heard things. By early December, Bumpy knew exactly what was coming. His lieutenants wanted to fight. Arm up. Bring in muscle from Detroit and Chicago. Start hitting Italian operations first. Bumpy said no. You don't win wars with bullets. You win them with psychology. December 15th. Bumpy learned that Costello was hosting a Christmas dinner. All five families, one location, one night. Bumpy smiled. That's the move. His people thought he was crazy. You can't walk into a mob dinner. That's suicide. They'll kill you at the door. Bumpy shook his head. They won't kill me. Why not? Because I'm going to give them something they can't refuse. A reason not to go to war. What reason? Bumpy looked at his crew. The truth. December 25th. Christmas. Costello's mansion on Long Island was lit up like a cathedral. Cars lined the circular driveway. Cadillacs, Lincolns, all black, all polished. Men in suits stood at every entrance, bulges under their jackets obvious. Inside, the dining room was spectacular. A table that sat 20, crystal chandeliers. China so expensive you could buy a house with one plate. And at the head of the table, Frank Costello, 57 years old, silver hair, tailored suit, the picture of power. To his right, Vito Genovese, younger, hungrier, watching everything like a hawk. Around the table, the others. Carlo Gambino, Albert Anastasia, Joe Bonanno, Joe Profati, Vincent Mangano, Tommy Lucchesi. Every name that mattered. They were eating. Veal, pasta, wine from Sicily. Laughing, talking business in Italian and English, planning the future, their future. 8:47 p.m. The front door opened. One of Costello's guards, Sal Benedetto, turned. A black man stood in the doorway. Tall, well-dressed, long coat, hat tilted just so. Bumpy Johnson. Sal's hand went to his gun. "The hell are you doing here?" Bumpy looked at him calmly. "I'm here to see Frank. You don't have an invitation." Bumpy smiled slightly. "I don't need one." 3 more guards surrounded him. Guns drawn. 1 call and you're dead. Bumpy didn't move. "Then make the call. But Frank's going to want to hear what I have to say." Sal hesitated. This wasn't protocol. You don't just let someone crash a mob dinner. But something about Bumpy's confidence, his calm, made Sal pause. He radioed inside. "Boss, we got a situation. Bumpy Johnson's at the front door. Says he needs to talk to you." Long silence. Then Costello's voice, crackling through. "Let him in." The dining room went silent when Bumpy walked in. Every head turned. Hands moved toward guns. Genovese stood up. "Frank, what the hell is this?" Costello raised his hand. "Sit down, Vito." Bumpy stood at the entrance to the dining room. He looked around the table slowly, made eye contact with each man. No fear, no aggression, just presence. "Bumpy." Costello's voice was measured. "This is a private dinner, I know. But what I have to say, everyone here needs to hear." Genovese stepped forward. "You got balls walking in here?" Bumpy looked at him. "I got necessity. There's a difference." "What necessity?" Costello asked. "The necessity to stop a war that nobody wins." The room stirred. Bonanno leaned back. "Who says there's a war coming?" Bumpy smiled. "Come on, Joe. We all know. You're planning to move into Harlem after the holidays. Buy out the operators. Push me out. And if I don't go quietly, you'll kill me. Start taking territory by force." Silence. No one denied it. Costello spoke carefully. "And you came here to negotiate?" Bumpy shook his head. "I came here to show you why you don't want to do this." Genovese laughed. "You threatening us? In Frank's house? On Christmas?" Bumpy ignored him, kept his eyes on Costello. "Can I approach the table?" Costello studied him, then nodded. Slowly. Bumpy walked forward. Every gun in the room tracked him. He reached the table. Stopped. Then he reached into his coat. 20 guns cocked. Bumpy moved slowly, pulled out a leather folder, placed it on the table in front of Costello. "What's this?" Costello asked. "Open it." Costello opened the folder. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. His face changed. He looked up at Bumpy, then back down. Genovese moved closer. "What is it?" Costello didn't answer. Genovese grabbed the folder. His face went pale. He dropped it like it burned. The photographs scattered across the table. The other bosses leaned in, looked, and one by one their expressions changed. Shock, anger, fear. What were the photographs? Carlo Gambino picked one up. "This is my nephew." Bumpy nodded. "Tommy Gambino, 17 years old. That photo was taken 3 days ago. He's at a heroin den on 142nd Street. Gambino's hand shook. "My nephew doesn't touch drugs." Bumpy's voice was gentle but firm. "Your nephew's been using for 6 months. Got him hooked through one of your own distributors. A guy named Petey Glasses. Works for you, Vito." Genovese's jaw clenched. Joe Bonanno grabbed another photo. "This is my cousin's son." Bumpy nodded again. "Frankie Bonanno, 19. Arrested 2 weeks ago for armed robbery in Harlem. Charges disappeared. You paid off the cops. But he's still using, still robbing. He hit one of your own protection clients last week, Joe. You just don't know it yet. Photo after photo. Vincent Mangano's son. Albert Anastasia's nephew. Tommy Lucchese's cousin. All young men. All family members of the men at that table. And all of them caught up in the drug trade, the violence, the chaos that was starting to seep into Harlem. But it wasn't just young men. There were other photos, business records, ledgers, payment receipts. Bumpy spoke quietly. "This is a record of every heroin shipment that's come into Harlem in the last 6 months. Every distributor, every supplier. And here's what you're going to notice. 70% of it is coming from your own organizations. Not into Harlem to sell to black folks. That's happening. But that's not the whole picture. Your guys are using it. Your families are getting destroyed by it. Your nephews, your cousins, your sons. The men you're trying to protect by expanding your empire, they're the ones being killed by it." Costello stared at the photos. "How did you get these?" Bumpy met his eyes. "Because I run Harlem." My people see everything. And for 6 months, I've been watching your families fall apart. I've been watching your young men come into my neighborhood, not as soldiers, but as addicts. And I've been documenting it. Why? Genovese demanded. Why would you do this? Bumpy looked around the table. Because you're about to go to war with me over Harlem. You think you're going to come in, take over, make more money. But what you don't understand is that the drug trade you're expanding, it doesn't just destroy black communities. It destroys everything it touches, including your own families. You come into Harlem, you're not taking over a gold mine. You're taking over a graveyard. And your own sons will be buried in it. The room was silent. Bumpy continued. I didn't come here to threaten you. I came here to show you the truth. You want Harlem? You can have it. But you'll lose more than you gain. Your families will tear themselves apart. Your sons will die, not from bullets, from needles. And 10 years from now, you'll look back and realize that the war you started on Christmas 1948 was the beginning of the end for all of you. Vito Genovese slammed his hand on the table. This is manipulation. Bumpy shook his head. This is reality. You think I'm lying? Call your people right now. Ask them where Tommy Gambino is tonight. Ask them where Frankie Bonanno was last Tuesday. They'll tell you they don't know, because they don't want to tell you the truth. But I'm telling you, because I don't want this war, not because I'm afraid, because it's stupid. Costello stood up slowly. Everyone watched him. He picked up one of the photos, stared at it. This is real? Bumpy nodded. Every word, every photo. I can take you to these kids right now if you want. Costello looked around the table, at the other bosses, at the photos scattered like casualties. Then he looked at Bumpy. What do you want? Bumpy spoke clearly. A truce. You stay out of Harlem. I stay out of your territories. We do business when it makes sense. We protect the boundaries. And most importantly, we stop the heroin from destroying both our worlds. You think you can stop heroin? Genovese asked skeptically. Bumpy looked at him. No. But I can control it in Harlem. Keep it away from kids. Keep it out of schools. Keep it from becoming an epidemic. Can you say the same? Silence. Because they couldn't. The drug trade was already spiraling. They knew it. They just hadn't admitted it. Albert Anastasia, who'd been quiet the whole time, spoke up. Why should we trust you? Bumpy's answer was simple. Because I could have used these photos to blackmail you. Could have sent them to the newspapers. Could have destroyed your families publicly. Instead, I brought them here. To you. In private. Because I'm not trying to destroy you. I'm trying to save both of us. Frank Costello walked to the window. Looked out at the snow falling on Long Island. Everyone waited. The Prime Minister of the underworld making a decision that would change everything. He turned back. Here's what we're going to do. We vote. Right here. Right now. War with Harlem or truce. He looked at Genovese. Veto? Genovese stared at Bumpy with pure hatred. But he looked at the photos, at his associates, at the reality in front of him. Truce. Costello looked at Gambino. Carlo? Gambino picked up the photo of his nephew. Put it in his pocket. Truce. One by one, they voted. Bonanno. Truce. Profaci. Truce. Mangano. Truce. Lucchesi. Truce. Anastasia, last, smiled slightly. You got guts, Bumpy. I'll give you that. Truce. Costello turned to Bumpy. You got your truce. But understand this. You keep Harlem clean. You control the drugs like you say. If I find out you lied, if I find out this was a game, there won't be another Christmas dinner. There'll just be a funeral. Yours. Bumpy nodded. Fair enough. But Bumpy wasn't done. He reached into his other pocket, pulled out a small box, placed it on the table. What's that? Costello asked. A gift. Costello opened it. Inside was a gold pocket watch, engraved on the back. To Frank. Merry Christmas. From a friend in Harlem. Costello stared at it. Then, for the first time that night, he smiled. You're something else, Bumpy. Bumpy smiled back. I try. He turned to leave, stopped, looked back at the table. Gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your dinner. Merry Christmas. And he walked out. 30 guns watched him go. None of them fired. When the front door closed, the dining room erupted. Genovese was furious. He played us. Costello shook his head. No, he saved us. From what? From ourselves. Look at these photos, Vito. Look at what we're becoming. He's right. We go to war with Harlem, we lose everything. Not to him, to the drugs, to the chaos. We need to clean our own house before we take someone else's. The truce held, not just that night, for years. Bumpy Johnson remained the undisputed king of Harlem. The five families stayed in their territories, and the relationship surprisingly became almost respectful. Costello and Bumpy even did business occasionally. Small things, information trades, mutual benefits. Because that night, Bumpy had done something no one expected. He'd shown them the truth. Not with violence, not with threats, with evidence, with reality. With the understanding that real power isn't about taking territory, it's about knowing when not to fight. The families cleaned house after that night. Carlo Gambino pulled his nephew out of Harlem, sent him to a facility upstate. 3 months clean, then brought him into the legitimate side of the business. Joe Bonanno did the same with his cousin's son. The others followed. Within 6 months, every young man in those photographs was either in treatment or dead. The ones who survived never forgot. They'd been saved by a black gangster from Harlem who cared more about their lives than their own families had noticed. That created loyalty. Strange loyalty, but loyalty nonetheless. And Bumpy used it. Not maliciously, strategically. Those young men became connections, bridges between worlds. When Bumpy needed a favor from the Italians, he didn't go through the bosses. He went through the nephews, the ones he'd saved. And they helped, because they owed him their lives. The drug trade changed too. Not everywhere, but in Harlem, Bumpy kept his word. He didn't eliminate heroin, that was impossible, but he controlled it. Kept it away from schools, kept dealers from recruiting kids, created rules, break them, and you disappeared. Not arrested, disappeared. The Italians watched. Some respected it. Others, like Genovese, never forgave the humiliation. But even Genovese understood, you don't break a truce that's working. And it was working. Crime went down in Harlem, not because there was less crime, because it was organized, controlled. The chaos that would have come from a mob war never materialized. Businesses flourished, families stayed intact, and the five families made their money elsewhere, in ventures that didn't require bloodshed in Harlem. Years later, in 1957, Frank Costello survived an assassination attempt. Shot in the head, miraculously lived. When he was recovering, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a note. Glad you're still here. The game's better with you in it. And a single photograph. Costello in the hospital. Taken from an angle that meant the photographer had gotten very close. The message was clear. I could have finished the job. But I didn't. Because we have a truce. Costello kept that photo in his desk drawer for the rest of his life. December 25th, 1948. Bumpy Johnson walked into the lion's den unarmed, placed the truth on the table, and walked out untouched. The five families declared a truce that saved Harlem, and in doing so, Bumpy Johnson proved what he'd always believed. The smartest weapon isn't a gun, it's information. The strongest position isn't aggression, it's understanding your enemy better than they understand themselves. And the greatest victory isn't destroying your opponent. It's making them realize they need you alive. That Christmas dinner became legend, not because of violence, because of what didn't happen. A war that would have killed hundreds, destroyed communities, and fractured the underworld, stopped before it began. All because one man had the intelligence to gather evidence, the courage to walk into enemy territory, and the wisdom to offer peace instead of violence. Bumpy Johnson didn't just crash a Christmas dinner. He crashed it with the one thing mobsters fear more than bullets, the truth about themselves, and that made him untouchable.